The wind screamed across the valley like a living thing, ripping through the pines and the frozen river as if trying to tear the world apart. Snow spun in furious spirals, stinging the skin like tiny shards of glass. In the middle of that merciless storm, on a river that hadn't fully frozen for the first time in 20 years, a young woman fought for her life while clutching the only thing that still mattered, her tiny newborn baby. Her breath came out in ragged bursts of steam, each one weaker than the last. Her dress, once white, now hung in shredded strips, frozen stiff against her trembling shoulders. Her hair clung to her skin in icy strands as she tried to pull herself onto a firmer patch of ice. But the river didn't care. The wind didn't care. The world did not care. And she was slipping. The surface beneath her cracked like thunder, sharp, echoing, dangerous, reminding her that every move could be the one that dragged her and her baby into the black, freezing water. She tried to call for help, but her voice came out as nothing more than a whisper swallowed by the storm. No one should have been out here. No one would hear her. Yet she still whispered the baby's name against the storm as if that alone might save them both. The child whimpered against her chest, tiny face buried in the furs she had managed to wrap around him before the cold nearly took him. His warmth was fading, she felt it, and so she pulled him closer, shielding him with her body even though she knew she had almost no warmth left to give. Every muscle in her body burned from the effort of staying above the water. Her legs were nearly numb, her fingers stiff, her lips turning blue. It was only a matter of minutes before the cold took her mind, then her strength, and then her baby. She refused to think past that. She refused to imagine that possibility. She had already lost everything, her home, her safety, her family, just to keep this child alive. She had crawled through night forests, hidden from the men chasing her, slept in hollow logs, starved for days, all for this fragile little life. She would not let him die now. She forced herself to breathe, even though each inhale burned. She pushed upward again, trying to drag her torso onto the cracked ice. But the moment she shifted, the ice snapped beneath her elbow and plunged it into the freezing current. She cried out, more from frustration than pain. "Please, please," she whispered, though she knew the river had no mercy to give. And then, just when the storm seemed ready to swallow them whole, she heard it. At first she thought it was only the wind playing tricks on her ears. But then it came again, heavier this time. Footsteps. Real footsteps, running fast. Her head jerked upright, eyes widening through the sheets of snow. A shape emerged through the blur, a towering figure charging across the riverbank with the speed of a wild animal. The man looked carved from the mountains themselves, broad, shoulders wrapped in thick fur, jaw tense, eyes blazing with urgency. Snow exploded beneath his boots as he sprinted toward her, his breath heaving but determined. She felt a wave of relief and fear, because she didn't know who he was. She didn't know if he was one of the men chasing her or a stranger who happened to be in the wrong place at the right time. She didn't have the strength left to fight or flee. She could only clutch her baby tighter and pray the ice held long enough for him to reach them. "Hold on," the man shouted, the storm almost swallowing his voice. But she heard him. She heard the rough desperation in his tone, the urgency, the command like someone used to saving lives, not taking them. He wasn't one of the men hunting her. She felt it instinctively. He was different. He was her only chance. The river cracked again violently, and a large piece of ice broke loose beside her, spinning into the water. Her heart jumped in terror. She cried out, "Please!" "My baby?" She couldn't finish the sentence. The wind stole it. The man didn't slow. If anything, her words made him push harder, run faster, his boots slamming into the fragile ice as if daring it to break beneath him. She stared at him through eyes blurred by tears and frost. She didn't know his name. She didn't know why he was here. But she saw the look in his eyes, the fierce, unshakable determination of a man who refused to let death win. And in that moment, hope, the smallest flicker of it, moved inside her chest. Not enough to warm her fingers or steady her breath, but enough to keep holding on, enough to keep surviving. The ice groaned beneath her again as a spiderweb of fresh cracks spread outward from her hips. She froze, barely breathing. If she moved wrong, even slightly, she and her baby would plunge into the dark, freezing depths. She didn't want to die. She didn't want her child's last moments to be fear and cold. She pressed a shaking kiss to his tiny forehead. Stay with me, she whispered. Just a little longer. The man was only 20 yards away now, hair whipped by the storm, fur cloak snapping behind him like a wild banner. Every powerful stride brought him closer. Every muscle in his body moved with purpose. He reached out a hand as if he could grab her from that distance. Don't move, he shouted, voice cutting through the storm. I'm coming. She wanted to trust him, but she had trusted before and it almost cost her life. Still, she had no choice. Her strength was gone. The baby's cries were growing weaker, and the ice beneath them was giving up. 10 yards, 5, 3, he lunged forward, but the ice shattered beneath her with a deafening crack. The world disappeared in a burst of icy darkness as the river swallowed her whole. The shock of the freezing water tore a silent scream from her throat, stealing the air from her lungs before she could even think. The cold was everywhere inside her chest, stabbing into her skin, clawing at her muscles. She held the baby above the surface with